peace, everyone. Another session here, quiet session here. Got the God here with me, but it's a quiet time here. Some of the elders here. I've been giving a lot of plus lessons the last couple of sessions. There's another one I want to go through today. It's an older one. As I write the new ones, I was gonna share the writer one, but when I looked at it, I felt like something was missing, so I just waited. Everyone that has emailed me, I think I have emailed everyone a copy of the Word is Bond Plus lesson if they've asked me. If not, I may have missed you. So just let me know, okay? Yeah. Trying to make new plus lessons, but I don't want to rush them. I want to make them useful. The whole point of these is for them to become useful. The truth is that there should be less precedence on them, or better said, if you're dealing with me and learning from here, you should be copying notes. You should be copying notes about what is useful to you, going back and copying notes and things like that, okay? In fact, it was my off-the-cuff notes that I was just riffing on it. Plus lesson for me to complete it. I had to go back to that session. It's about two weeks ago and do the knowledge. I think it was when the God Infinite Mind was in the cipher here. But yeah, that day, yeah. So that worked. Yeah, so today I also want to deal with people's questions. I notice it always happens. It has happened since I have started to share classes or lectures and builds here in the classroom setting since 2020. When I share a particular plus lesson, the comments in the comments section, the chat is very quiet. That's okay. That's okay. But it doesn't have to be. I really am trying to get into everything that people ask about. You know what I mean? All right. So if anybody has any questions about anything, please throw it in there. I also want to quote something. We talk about particular figures that are important in politics and political history. Certainly, we talk about the analysis of U.S. corrupt, and not, let's just say, U.S. history, and of course for exposing it for all of its corruptness as they should, and world history and how we've dealt with world history. Noam Chomsky is obviously the leader there, if not the leader, one of the leaders historically, certainly, definitely chronicling the 20th century. I mean, books about Gaza, when we talk about books about Gaza and what Israel's doing in Palestine, he already had books about that with Ilan Pappy and other people that are scholars, Jewish and Palestinian scholars that have always been against the occupation, But I was reading a book. I finished it. And guys, as far as like political thought, I think one of the leaders today in this century is Chris Hedges. And I've really read a lot of his books this year. I got them all, so I've been trying to just read all of them because I really respect his insights. I'm just trying to do that, by reading all his books, it's almost like I'm taking a course with him. I think I've read about 5 of them already. Short, they're not big books. They're like 200 to 300 range. Some of them in the 180 range, so they're quick to read, right? And I think it was from, what book was it? Let's see. I got to go back to see which one it was. It's a book that Chris Hedges wrote called America, the Farewell Tour. Very good analysis. around 2016 it was published. So around that mid 2010s, going through in a kind of macro way, going through the topics of the decay of society, heroin, right, drugs, work, employment, sadism, hate, gambling, freedom. And he went through all these things and giving personal stories, like in gambling, of people that really just became obsessed gambling, but also giving the macro notes of of the massive money that casinos makes, breaking down, for example, how the casinos are designed to rob you and steal you of money. You know, very interesting stuff. But the last chapter is freedom, and that chapter was mainly about the prison industrial complex. And had this interesting quote from Noam Chomsky. He wrote in there. Noam Chomsky, he said, this is what Noam Chomsky said as Chris Hedges is quoting him. If you care about other people, that's now a very dangerous idea. Okay? If you care about other people, you might try to organize to undermine power and authority. That's not going to happen if you care only about yourself. Maybe you can become rich. You don't care whether other people's kids can go to school or afford food to eat or things like that. In the United States, that's called libertarian for some wild reason. I mean, it's actually highly authoritarian, but that doctrine is extremely important for power systems as a way of atomizing and undermining the public, right? I wanted to read this because it speaks to one of the concepts that I talk about a lot, rugged individualism, this concept of there is freedom, though, in our own personal economic liberation. And what we mean by economic liberation isn't really liberation where we could get all the things we really need for freedom, but really have the freedom to indulge at will in the society that we're in. In this case, this devil civilization, So those words by Noam Chomsky struck a chord with me because, I think in the music and in the arts, the way that our people deal with celebrities and the way that our people deal with finance, as far as the perspective of it, why capitalism is acceptable, things like that, is usually in the principles of rugged individualism. Think Jay-Z, for example. Those principles. It's really about my hustle. If my hustle is advantageous, then that's what I'm doing for me. And then the listener listens, not because what Jay-Z's saying shows care about them. It actually shows absolutely total indifference to them as another individual of society. Now think about this for a minute. We talk about it's about hip hop, but it's about art. Like, we could communicate with people and we could be totally indifferent to them because we're talking about rugged individualism. Individualism. And I say rugged individualism because it is at all costs. It doesn't matter about the fate of the other individual. The possible negative fate of the other, fatal fate of the other individual is irrelevant to what we're doing here. This is something that is based on rugged individualism. And it's very interesting that when the listener or the reader reads art or observes art or listens to art in this fashion, they obviously cannot relate to the artist, entertainer that's saying this or projecting these thoughts as he really is. They are one person and you another person in this said society, right? You are the artist that comes out of the hood. I am the individual listener that comes out of the hood, that is in the hood and listening. It has to be, it has to be vicarious. It has to be living through that other person now. So it sets up an idol of worship where one can only listen to this Jay-Z song, or whoever's doing the rugged individualism, right? Because if you know my catalog, you know that I'm very critical of him. But it's universal in this sense that many rhyme this way. And even the great ones, the ones that I consider great, whether it's a Jay-Z, who I think is compromised commercially, all that, etc., but someone that I think is actually does it with talent and original skill, like a Rock Marciano. The mentality of the listener to that entertainer has to be vicarious. They have to be thinking, I'm thinking like you. I want to be like you. And I'm seeing it the way I want to be like that. I got to get like that. You know what I mean? And that's an important distinction. Just as a contrast, because you got my brother King Kamal in here. When my brother King Kamal makes art, it is never, and it's not something that he thinks of. It is not something that he thinks of. This is who he is. And maybe some of these other punks that I mentioned or stuff, they really do this without thinking. This is just them. But when he shares the verse, when he makes the song, when it is sincere to the person, it is also sensitive to the respect that this is a communication between me and you, the listener, on an equal plane of equality. I may be the best knower, and certainly the more skilled knower, right? But in the content, I may be the best knower, but it's never about rugged individualism. The efforts and the work that is had to make what I have done and overcome, and the things that I have, maybe a polo hat, polo shirt, polo pants, right, polo boot, is really something that I have gained, but it is absolutely not at the cost of your destruction if you were ever in the way, if you were ever even observing, if you were ever even, in competition somehow. Because there's a difference. See what I said there? Most people in this society, we can have this relation to rugged individualism because we ingrain ourselves to the concept that we are in competition with everyone, and everyone is trying to take food off our table, and thus everyone is dangerous in some kind of fashion. And I just want to, I just want those things to be orated in some kind of way, to be acknowledged in some kind of way, that this is the way that we're actually, thinking about this. It's very, it's very intriguing. And when I read let's see if I've charged this already. We could pull it out. The Willow Chauncey case says, if you care about other people, that's now a very dangerous idea. If you care about other people, you might try to organize or to undermine power and authority. And that's what I mean. Like, the rappers we think are so freedom giving, they rhyme as if, and the art, it reflects the way we think about things. And the only way that we care about not criticizing the system is because we want to succeed in the system. So we don't criticize. We accept it. We don't care about other people. It really is rugged individualism. And I find that to be one of the most dangerous things. And I'll say this a lot. It gets to me all the time to see children being destroyed. It's the only way to say it, see children, The people of Palestine, the people of Gaza, they're brown in understanding seeds, you know what I mean? A lot of them look like exactly like family members, you know what I'm saying? I remember when my oldest daughter started to see these images And I had educated about Palestine and all that kind of stuff, but to see the images, and I said, this has always been going on. And I told her about the Nakba and all that. And it bothered her because they looked like her when she was young, children. They look like relatives, you know what I mean? But even so, it's children everywhere. This isn't the first genocide. This isn't the first destruction. If we go back to the Bush years, the Bush Junior years, the 2000s, the war in Iraq for the weapons of mass destruction, right? The can't, not can't, cannot, but the can't, C-A-N-T. The story, the fantastical story of weapons of mass destruction. And so even this genocide, the distinct thing is us watching it very vividly. It's always going to be the case that we are watching something more vividly, but never, absolutely never the case that we are watching something that has not taken place just the other day. You know what I mean? The war in Iraq, though, was brutal. There was no one to kill there. There was no weapons of mass destruction. They knew that. If they didn't know it and wanted to believe there was, they found out quickly there weren't. And they destroyed, absolutely destroyed Iraq. Nearly 500,000 people killed. I was reading that, and it's in this book too. No, not in this book. There's another book by Noam Chomsky. It's actually, I'm getting confused because it's another book by Noam Chomsky. I'll tell you the name of it in a moment. But in that book, the people of Iraq, parents, they couldn't get anything done to repair their homes, nothing. And they had the minimum acts. You don't want to know the minimum acts. The minimum, most least thing that they asked, can you please at least do one thing to the government? They asked the Iraqi government, can you at least clear a path in these roads, dead bodies, so the children can go to school and they don't have to see that? Let's just think about that for a moment, though. Just clear a path so my children can go to school. It's not one person, two people. This is littered with dead bodies. This is what we're dealing with, though. This is what we're dealing with here. There's a symptom of America, and I mention this as we deal with the 85. We try to teach them the black man is God. There's a supremacy in you, but there is no supremacy. There is no, what's today's math? Understanding knowledge. There is no understanding of the knowledge that the black man is God. If there is no humanity that is being manifested. So we deal with the 85. These 85 in these days and times, they have a carelessness, a dismissal. Now it becomes real. You know when it becomes real? Because they see the way that they allow genocide in Gaza and support it, the way that they allow ICE to become super pigs, super police, just gathering anyone, and that it has precedence. It has precedence in wartime, right? World War II, when things were going very bad, Depression times, and they decided World War II, and the economy was horrendous, and they decided to just deport Mexicans as a show of, well, that's the problem. That's what was the reasoning. Peace, God.
My baby.
Peace, God. Everything's peace, God.
Come here, let me tell you something. You want to see it? Please. You want to see a real young me?
Oh, that is peace, God. That's peace, God.
Those you? Yeah, that's me and Rashid. That's the young me. That's the young you. That's the young me. That's Rashid from Medina. Like a real G. Yeah, that's Rashid from Medina. Yeah, I could.
Peace, God.
You know, I'm cool, brother, like you. My family, everybody good?
Indeed, God. They're great.
You looking well. You all right, my son? You behaving yourself? Yeah, bro. Okay, now. If you have any problems, come to me now. All right? Call me Big G. Big G.
Peace, God.
Hey, God, 16 more months from now, we'll be 80.
That's peace, God.
Yeah.
That's peace,
16 months from now, we'll be 80.
That's supreme, God. Peace, God.
Peace.
A little moment there with Hashim, one of the elders that left with the Father. One of the few, I think the only one that's alive that left with the Father, left the mosque. Because he saw that what the Father was saying was right and exact. God-born years, about to be built, head on the cipher. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Peace of self-magnetic King Kamal, my brother. Jeweler, I might answer that question. But let me finish this thought here, right? I will not let certain things go because we have to deal with the 85. We have to deal with people our age, including people that said that they had knowledge. People that we deal with, even women I was talking to, right? I said, I'm not voting for Democrat or Republican in this presidential election of 2024. And for many reasons, but both of them are for the continued genocide in Gaza and support it. We talk about Democrats not supporting, that they supporting. We saw Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez refuse to sign a bill to stop the funding of Israel with the poor excuses that probably was another devil, that she's against Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's a devil racist for sure. But that got nothing to do with that vote. And so she's against funding the offensive weapons, but not the defensive weapons. There ain't no such thing as a difference. And when that money goes out there, they do as they please with it. So it's this devilishment. But what I'm saying is, like, our people here, especially Black Americans, we're completely indifferent. Completely indifferent. Don't matter about Israel and that ain't over here. We're over here. See, we keep doing that. We keep doing that, even though the revolutionaries that we applaud, that we love, right? The Khalid Muhammad's, Malcolm X, those were revolutionaries that understood, right? That the way that the manner in which the government of the society you live in deals with the outside forces, countries outside of themselves, are really the way that they intend to deal with you eventually. You don't care about the prisons and the oppression. Well, I'm not a lawbreaker. I'm not a criminal. I'm not going to go to jail. So I don't care if there's slavery in there, this and that. But these are the models that are being prepared for the workers outside. And every year that passes, it becomes closer and closer. Okay? These are insights that have me thinking, reading Chris Hedges' Fall of America, because it's so poignant. But it also leads to the build that I have today with the plus lesson I just wanted to go over. Okay, and that's why, I go through these things. But if you're worried about who you're going to teach, we keep thinking about we're going to teach someone that is strong, that is powerful, that could deal with this knowledge. But what about the humanity that they display? Where is their level of humanity? Where is their level of sacrifice? See, I remember Savior Knowledge used to tell me sacrifice is not if I give a pencil to someone that needs a pencil to write with, if I have more pencils. It's if I only have one pencil, and that's the one that I gave up. What is a sacrifice, though? I remember this was not when this weekend, Saturday, I went to see Blackpink with my daughter at City Field. It was amazing. I really had a great time. Wonderful time. I'll mention it later, but it was another day. We were on the ferry coming back, returning home, and the guy had a long cooler. You know those long coolers? And he was dragging it, and it was filled with water bottles and ice. And he said, I'm just trying to get this water to people, saving lives. It was definitely one of these days that was like 100, right? Because we had a few already. It's one of the days we had 100, right? I just want to tell you about sacrifice and what people think is humanity, and it's not humanity. It is not humanity. Don't put yourself out there. Don't confuse capitalism as in any type of embrace of humanity. If you want to, you separate it. Because it does. There are things people do that are based on capitalism, that they have to make a buck, and it is done humanely. But don't confuse the two and act like there isn't a massive separation. And so I had this guy comes through with the cooler, and he's asking people to make way so he can get through because he's trying to save lives with the water. And I'm like, that's cool. He's giving out the water. But it's water for $1. $1 for every water. $1 for every water. And he's saying, listen, I got to get through. Even the fire department, they got to get through crowds too. You got to let us through. We're trying to save lives. And I look at my daughter, and she's kind of almost eating it up. I just know. I just know my kid. And I normally would keep quiet. I let hustles be hustles. But you're not going to hustle my kid's mindset as far as sacrifice. Because I've been teaching my children their whole lives that to give something to the community without getting anything back is something that must be done in some fashion. For me, the most overt clearly has been teaching here. Everything I give, every material, everything I give for free. No one pays here. I give my time here. I don't get any money from anyone. I refuse money. But the point being, I look at my kid and I tell her, so she could hear it. I'm not yelling it out, but I'm also not being like whispering. And I tell her, I said, what you're hearing is the most stupidest shit ever. Please do not believe any of that. I said, anyone that's really helping is unconditional. Lives are saved unconditionally. Just remember that. Lives are saved unconditionally. There is someone that is at a point of fatigue that may pass out, but has too much pride to ask for a water bottle because they don't have $1. The fact that that man will always miss that person means that is not saving lives. He is there for $1. And deep down, he knows that if he gives one person that really needs it $1, he's going to have to possibly give to other people's a water bottle for free. And soon enough, if he does, he's going to give it to him. I'm just giving it to you because, and give some type of reason why that human deserves to be saved from the intense heat freely, as opposed to anyone else. I said to my daughter, that is not saving lives. That is not a badge of humanity, and he's certainly not a fireman. Because even though a fireman gets paid, remember the perfection of my brother Ka, a fireman still is going above and beyond and willing to risk his life. And for that, there is no payment for that. There's no payment for that. You know? And my daughter felt that he heard me say it, though. You know? He said, heard me say that, you know? And he looked at me, the guy looked at me and he says, appreciate you. And I just nodded, you know? I don't know if he heard me or not, because if he did, I wasn't helping his hustle at all. But I was only speaking to my kid, and I'm going to speak to my kid in a regular voice, because I don't care. Again, if I was by myself, I would have been quiet, you know? But there's levels to humanity here. You know what I mean? Levels to humanity. How we deal with humanity. You know what I mean? I see a question here from Julia. Let me see. Have you ever read the book, The 13th Drive by Arthur Kessler? Yeah, I read it a long time ago. I have a physical copy. Pretty sure I lost it, though. Unless it's in my attic. I lost it. I have two, guys, I keep it real. I love books and like how I lose books. I have two baby mamas, though. So when those relationships dissolved, I had to go. And I didn't always get to leave with all my stuff. Keep it real. You know, and this is why I love having digital books. They always go with me. But I had the book. I read it. I don't know if I read it now, I would question some of the scholarship. But I would like to review the book again. It's a book I would like to review again. You know? Julie, you said I saw a video of people trying to get food at a checkpoint. I'm assuming you're talking about Gaza. I'm not sure I'm using the right words, but someone was shooting at them. Yeah. And you're right. They're shooting people getting food. They have bombed people since the beginning, since October 7th. They have told people to go places and flee areas and then bomb those areas they told them to flee towards. It's just heinous and it's disgusting. And the concept that the evil terrorists are hiding amongst the population so the population gets to get smoked out is one of the most bullshit reasons, most devilish cop-outs that only a fool would accept. By that reasoning, though, if a criminal robs from a bank and runs inside a crowded Jewish synagogue, we could just light that shit up. We could just light it all up. We said, listen, it's a Jewish synagogue, but the bank robber ran in there. It's the only way to get him out is you got to shoot the whole thing. We watch movies where there's hostages, though, and the criminals are in there, and they don't say, well, the criminals are in there, let's just kill everybody. And well, it's not my fault the hostages were in there. So it's crazy, this justification. But it's been a justification used, I don't know, for 50 years. Nearly, almost 50 years, guys. You know what I mean? So it's just crazy. You know what I mean? And you're right. Yeah, you're right, King. Malcolm stood in solidarity Palestine. You know, Stokely Carmichael, aka Kwame, better known as Kwame Ture, right? James Baldwin. Everybody knew from the 60s. And now and it took less than 20 years to know that this was heinous, you know? And so this is a continuation. And mind you, if anybody wants to read the history of Palestine, I have a lot of books. I've read a lot of books on it. And I have a lot of books on it. So to share if you guys are interested. And I'm going to say this again as far as humanity, right? How could I ever vote vote for people that are okay with continuing to kill original people? And I see them as original people. To kill anyone. If there was a genocide in people in Europe, I wouldn't be with it. No children, no babies. And when I first, as a young man, started to be militant and really do things for the pro-independence movement in Puerto Rico, I was in those independent militant circles, and the first people that I saw that I didn't know who they were, that were in those circles, were Palestinians. And Palestinians regularly marched, you know? Police brutality marches, Palestinians regularly marched. And that's why we used to see those scarves. And I said, that's an ill scarf right there. I said, that's what our people wear. That's Palestinians. We wear that, you know? And I was going to school, Baruch College, though. It was a heavy Jewish, stronghold in there. That's a good word, man. Stronghold. Me and Day's son was at Baruch College, you know? We used to bomb up the Jews and say, you're not even the original people. That could never be your land. You know what I mean? And they would the Jews that have dual citizenship with America and Israel, they would just look at each other and just wink. They knew they had it all unlocked. You know what I mean? Yeah. But we start teaching people this knowledge of self. We're always looking for like who's the able, who's got connections, who's willing to do whatever. They're tough. Look at their humanity. Study their humanity. That to me is the most important thing. It's always been. You know what I mean? It's always been, and it's important in the bias of how we look at things. The bias of our understanding is what I call this lesson today. The bias of understanding. There is a bias to understanding, right? Let's get into it more. Self-magnetic. Yeah, you saw the pictures of me and Alma. Yeah, she's amazing, you know. You guys, you know, I've been to so many wonderful concerts with my children. My oldest daughter, we went to see Demi Lovato, Selena Gomez, 5 Seconds of Summer, Halsey, and there are more. I gotta ask my oldest to give me a full list. Pierce the Veil, you know. First time I was with her. My oldest daughter saw a mosh pit. I said, we don't want to go in there. We don't want to go there yet. And she was like, no, come on. Man, she saw a little girl all bloodied. She was like, we can stay here a little longer. Yeah, so it was a lot of groups. I named like 5 of them, and it's all amazing times now. Like you see, India, I saw like India with my oldest daughter. Like my oldest daughter saw a lot of it. So like taking my youngest to see Blackpink is like the beginning of her musical journey. And if we get some time and it links up, I could take her to see some other shows, you know, in the summer, some free shows. We can see some jazz. We can see some salsa if we can find it and stuff, you know. Hip hop too, if it's applicable. But just a wonderful thing. You know what I mean? She's so into Blackpink. I'll tell you, I'm just saying the joy of being a father. Like they came on and she started cheering and yelling. And then she stopped cheering. And I was like, I know she got more gas than that. I looked at her and just seeing them come up on stage, she started crying, you know? And it was crying. And because I always told her that these tickets were too expensive, you know? And it just blew her away that she would actually see them, you know what I mean? And it was just a wonderful memory, you know what I mean? It ranks up there. Seeing these concerts with my children ranks up there, usually higher than some of the shows I've been to, and I see legends. You know what I mean? All types of legends. You know, and it ranks higher. You know what I mean? Ranks higher. You know, but wonderful experience, you know. But too bad my kids don't like this, the local MC. You know what I mean? We pay $10 and, you know, I get in there. Toshi will get me in and it's all good, you know. But it is what it is, you know. That's what they like, you know. Did I see the video that David Duke did about the book? I don't know what book you're referring to, and I didn't see any video about it. So let me know what book you're talking about. That way I can be in tune. Juliet, sound travels, definitely. You know, and if you heard, that's what he heard. It wasn't me saying that dumb shit, you know? But yeah, let me know what book you were talking about here. King, you said, you know, it was wicked. Wait, what? The book is not running exact since the event of DNA. I'm thinking you mean Advent of DNA. Let me know the name of the book as I go along here. King, you said, you know, it was wicked when they were spending our accounts when we posted things that brought awareness to Palestinian people being done wrong. Yeah. My account got flagged, temporarily suspended for days. Yeah. When it came to the vax of Palestine, yeah, we was getting shut down. Why Savior God, peace. You said, yes, here we Atlanta, we're involved in anti-police brutality marches. Last one. That's peace, God. You know, I don't want people to do violent things, and know that when you go on police brutality marches or any marches, you're gonna have devils embedded in there that are gonna try to be violent, so that way they could cause a more riotous affair, you know, to destabilize the peacefulness and the power of the movement. But I think every young person ought to march. They go, marching doesn't do anything. I understand more than anyone, you know? But you need to go out there and be with the people and do it a few times. See what the people are. Talk with the people. Most important things I learned during marches was not, you know, yelling and things like that. We did all that. Of course, we're supposed to. But it was talking to the man on the street, you know, to talking to different mothers and different sisters and different brothers and fathers, you know, workers, employees, people getting by, artists, you know, creatives. That's we got to be, you know, among the people. And it's a wonderful thing. So I salute you, God. That's a wonderful thing. Julie said, I'm a DJ, never heard of Blackpink. I'm assuming they said, no, Blackpink is a K-pop band. One word, Blackpink, K-pop band. They're a 4-group K-pop band. Jenny, Jisoo, Lisa, Rose. See, I'm down. You see that? I know all the Blackpink members. See, I'm down. You know, my daughter would be very proud. But yeah, you know, self-magnetic. Yeah, you see, you know, and that first time you go and they see it, you know, it's just gonna resonate different, man. By the way, I took my oldest to see Eddie Palmieri. Man, the list is big. Now, the more I'm thinking, like, I took it to artists I want to see. I took it to see Willie Colon, La India, Eddie Palmieri. Then yeah, at least those, you know, among the ones that she wanted to see, you know. But it's just a wonderful thing, you know. And Blackpink, they do basically, it's like a dance, R&B, hip hop influence, and they rap too, and it's fun. It's braggadocio, it's sexy, but they're not vulgar. You know what I'm saying? And the band was all black brothers prominently displayed. You know what I mean? And they really rocked out. You know what I mean? Very good band, very quality. You know. And I never been to a show that had that much fanfare. Like I never been to a show that had that much fire and fireworks. You know what I mean? Like fire flames coming out of the stage and fireworks. I never go to the big time shows, big pop shows like that. You know what I mean? And I've been to hundreds of shows. It's never been my lane, you know. So it was really fun to see, and it was double too because my daughter never seen like fireworks that close up though. So see it in the stadium and stuff. You know what I mean? And of course, right, self-magnetic, we wear the right stadium, City Field. You know what I mean? The right stadium. You know what I'm saying? But for the Mets, you know. But Yeah, the 13th tribe. Oh, so wait, David Duke was talking about the 13th. Yeah, I never saw the 13th tribe book as having a great scholarly consistency. I didn't see enough references in the book. That was my only problem. And a lot of the, and the timelines of the Jews and how they extend to all the European people and also original people. That clarity is not in that book. You know what I mean? So it's not a book that could be used as a solo Bible or one solo thing. You know. That's peace, God. That is peace, God. Yeah. It would have, self-magnet, it would have been a little bit less of a concert I liked. A little bit less, just a tiny fraction if I had to go to Yankee Stadium for that shit, Um, sorry if you're a Yankee. I'm not a Yankee fan. Even the name Yankee means imperialist, though. I can't do it. Can't do it. You know what I mean? Can't do it. I'm reading Reggie Jackson's autobiography and the things that the Yankee Ball Club did. I mean, they've been racist for a long time. You know what I mean? I think all ball clubs are in some fashion, but historically, But the Yanks are always they're the front runners. They've always been the front runners. The leaders in devilishment. You know what I mean? Never saw the doc, not because I didn't have the chance to, but because I wanted to read the book. I wanted to read his autobiography before I saw the documentary. And it's a very interesting documentary. You know what I mean? I'll say this though, I'm halfway through it. The disappointing part of the autobiography is he dealt with so much political and racist bullshit with the New York Yankees club and the media of New York that there's not as much baseball talk as I want. About games, about the way they was doing things. I've read a lot of baseball autobiographies. You know what I mean? In fact, I'm not a Yankee fan at all, but he ends up being my favorite Yankee because he was great. He was amazing. But it was the first autobiography I ever read because I remember when we was kids, my mother wanted us to get us to read, so she bought us Sports Illustrated magazines, and then we went to the library. I didn't want to read no books, but then I found the autobiography, and I read Mickey Mantle's autobiography, which he was a savage boy, but he's a great player, and it's very interesting autobiography, and that's what got me into reading autobiographies. I still read a lot of them to this day, and I have a whole bunch. Guys, if you're interested in any kind of book, I really have everything. What do you think about the Book of Enoch? I haven't read the Book of Enoch. Cats from other schools with those sweaters, the deep part that was left out due to it making one question the whole Bible. Yeah, I don't, because I don't put too much care in the Bible. I don't really care about that. There's so many other scholarly works. You know what I mean? I don't really care about like reading the Bible. I've never put too much care into that. And it's funny though. I actually have the Book of Enoch. Though I have it though, but it's an unread book that I have. It really is. It's in the collection. I'm gonna read it. So guys, I want to go. I'm gonna be here just probably like maybe 20 minutes at the most. 20 more minutes at the most. Give you guys a good solid hour. I want to go through a plus lesson I wrote that deals with that idea of understanding. I had opened it here. I don't know where it is. There we go. Right? And again, if you have any questions on it or any thoughts, please. The reason I call this session the bias of understanding is because all understanding is based on knowledge and is right and exact. Your understanding has to be right and exact. It's not understanding. But there are understandings that we put precedence on. In other words, we have a lens of understanding that we look through. And it cannot change the precedent. So when we deal with expressing our understanding through our culture, right? Its power is enormous. Some of it is more enormous than others. And what I mean by bias of understanding is, well, the most classic example is we always think of the children. Ultimately, whatever we're doing is for the children. right? So when we go through our bias of understanding, it's for the best part, the children, okay? That would be our bias, because we go into any other place and we don't go to places where we don't give a shit about the children. No, it's never like that. We always care. We always care. We're always thinking about their perspective, even as we're doing things that are not for children. They are always in service of the children ultimately. This is what the father, this is what the firstborn and the first fruit taught us. You know what I mean? Right? Where they are, speaking the language with the purpose of giving them knowledge of self and not the other way around. Thank you, God King. That's exactly the add-on to extend the insight that I'm sharing here. So this plus lesson, I wrote this back in 2011. It's called Understanding Volume 1. For some reason at the time, I thought I would have more volumes. Maybe I might, I don't know. But I called it the transition from work, wisdom, to insight, understanding. And the premise, it is a premise that says this series of lecture notes are to reinforce the year's theme that is being focused on, understanding. During those 2010s, I used to teach on a theme, and we would revisit the theme, you know, all right? This particular year's theme was understanding. The prior year, the thematic focus was on the ideal of work. In engaging in particular work willfully, one will develop an awareness of self. One will see the conflict of the desire for righteousness and the actual reality of one's virtue in real time terms. Okay? It begins with the BAT, Build Awareness Square. The plus lesson I said, Build Awareness Square. Studying how one eats, trains, reads, writes, shares. Eats what you consume, train how you build your body, and take care of it and care for it. So it's all those things. Training, physical exercise, training, hygiene, martial arts, everything, right? Your grooming, everything. Your clothes, how you dress. Reads, what you do to knowledge, what do you knowledge that's learning. Writes, how you share things, how you speak, how you communicate. Shares, what you were giving, how you were giving. Learning of oneself, one may take note of what they are studying, justice curriculum, right? We've gone through this before, okay? That's another plus lesson, right? About certain subjects we should be studying, at least the immediate ones we should be delving deep into. Now ready to begin working on developing understanding. The work year ended with the justice build, a set of major concepts to help the approach in seeing one's understanding in supreme math, alphabet, 120 lessons, and even everything else they encounter worthy of study. Okay, so that's just like a framework, because this is what I was doing a series. For those that email me, like I'm gonna get all the emails out about plus lessons to everyone. Okay, I have time this week. This week again, it was a big deal. I was preparing my daughter for a trip she's gone to with her mother and everything, and the Blackpink thing was our big event of the year. So it was a lot. So I'll be sending out all the emails I missed. Also, too, finishing and getting my album ready for release, because it's a side thing. I have my second solo album comes out tomorrow. Okay, so it was a lot of stuff to do. I'll mention that before the end, but it's not important right now, right? So there's a quote from Yamamoto Tsunetomo, who wrote the Hagakure, okay, The Way of the Samurai, circa 1716. In that book, which is a great book, great movie too, Ghost of The Way of the Samurai, that they use as the book. Yamamoto said, "It is bad when one thing becomes two. One should not look for anything else in the way of the samurai. It is the same for anything that is called away. If one understands things in this manner, he should be able to hear about all ways and be more and more in accord with his own." I'm about to sneeze right now. Hold on, guys. Okay. You know what's funny? It's so hot outside, and I spend so much time traveling that I end up in the air-conditioned trains too long. It's very frustrating. But and I got out, and it's actually not as hot as it was because of the rain. So anyway, the reason I put that quote is because you can hear about all people's insights, opinions, everything. But if you have that lens of understanding, that way that is based, that is your understanding, that is your way of life, based on a true understanding, is your lens, and it does not get corrupted. You are seeing the world through that lens. We know that the black man is God. I know that I am the true and living God. That lens never changes. I am looking through the world in those right and exact lens. Okay, so the first area is dealing with understanding is logic. There must be a scientific reasoning that one develops that identifies and eradicates, gets rid of the use of preconceived beliefs and unproven ideas. Logic is a science that deals with the principles and criteria of validity of inference and demonstration. For example, criteria equation. This is a thing this is like basically an exercise I always talk about, is making a list that must be proven to prove the said idea. Make a criteria list. Example, the creator criteria list, listing any and all requisites, necessary things the creator must prove to be in order to be called the creator. They include, so let's say I say in my list, well, supreme biochemistry composition. He has to have the supreme biochemistry. All the elements of the universe must be within him and within his control. Check. Manipulative ability and or housing all of the elements of the universe. Check. Master of universal language that details all creation. Supreme mathematics. Master of time and space. Check. The infinite and the finite. In this physical body, the finite, the infinite mind. Master of time. Right? We have no set birth record. Right? Make a criteria equation when you want to show and prove things if they are completely true. Do they hit all the bullet points in it? All right. The other aspect of logic, another aspect, there's many aspects. I just put two here. Proper variables. As scientists, Gandhi's insight that, quote, life is constant experiments with truth, end quote, then we must learn to set our variables correctly in order to draw proper insight. Variables are the set of attributes that are set and proven as you study changing realities. If those variables are not correct, for example, if one's variable is the mystery God causes weather, then one cannot track any new observation with any insight. For example, the science of breath and the body's absorption and release of moisture as significantly impacting weather when directed. You'll never get there because your variables are wrong. You have an error in one of the variables. Okay? The greatest variable of dealing in this world is knowing that you are the true and living God. And now this is the unchanging variable as you engage outward into the world everywhere. You know what I mean? Everywhere we go, no matter where we go, I am me, the true and living God. And so this allows me to see fluctuations and changes in my environment much sharper than before. You see? All right. Then the approach. There is the approach to understanding. The work we do to truly see ourselves builds the way itself. It builds the way that we encounter any and all things. First, intention. The immediate nature that one surfaces upon all encountered ideas and observations. A few major ideals of intention are listed below, but they are all united in the one intention that our understanding developed with the intention of building the best part, the babies. Even I wrote it in there. I can't leave it out. It has to be in there. So your approach begins with your intention. So besides the baby's always the greatest, what are some of these markers? One is humility, the ability to gauge one's level or state of being properly. The ability to gauge one's level or state of being properly. This allows one a yin space, a more giving space, that is the opportunity to be the perfect student. The perfect student is willing to be wrong at each and every presentation of new and proven knowledge. Humility. It's also knowing that you are really great, right? And knowing that you must perform the said duty. The second marker is sincerity. Okay? Sincerity. It is said to be an honesty of mind and a freedom from hypocrisy. That is, sincerity is said to be an honesty of mind and a freedom from hypocrisy. This is what is missing from the majority of those that know and those that cannot learn. To be sincere is to let go of like and dislike and willingly search what is true and right through the strict study of self and all things. As one shares, then one will learn. Then one will then only share what one truly thinks will aid others and not for their own aggrandizement, as in the increasing of one's pride and vanity. I teach everybody. I'm going to teach everybody. And you start just mouthing off to everybody. Okay? Last one I put here. Virtue, the accumulation of righteous deeds. These cannot be counted. When one applies the B.E.A.C.E., the build, awareness, square that plus lesson exercise and studies their sharing, they are not to count their worth. They're to judge the development of their sharings. So I don't say count your virtue to see all the good things you did. It's to see the way that you do these good things, the nature by which you do them, the effectiveness. Respect your power and study that. Okay? This is a heavy plus lesson, guys. The principles, okay, the proper lens of righteousness, a sense of the nature and subsequent way that promotes life is based on developing one's principles. The ancients, before they received the facts of knowledge of self in order to discover them, studied themselves closely in the ideals of sincerity, virtue, honor, and countless ideals, morals, and ethical principles. We must study those ideas, develop them as crucial to our nature, and develop insight that promotes their natural living in this hellish society. The mastering of applying principles to the devilish society is the highest form of political education. Okay? And I said here, refer to the 3 perfect principles by Sunez. This is another plus lesson I wrote, I'll share. Right? And I say that the 3 perfect principles are originality, creativity and content united. That's originality. 2, honor. The living word is bond. That's honor. And 3, full uprightness, one's utmost understanding revealed in any and all of one's manners and ways. In other words, you're able to have your understanding be reflected and revealed in every movement of your culture, everything you do. And these short things, the 3 perfect principles, is something I created, but I had also put it in the song, The Zen of Us, in my first album. That's what the second verse is about in The Zen of Us. You know, I go into that, right? The second verse is like a declaration to my daughters that I'll do anything for them, and that they uphold that they and we all uphold the 3 perfect principles. And I go, anyway. The second thing, right? Form the question, not the answer. The greatest scientist, scholar, does not fit answers to problems, but builds new questions, answering old ones along the way. To do otherwise makes supreme mathematics a mere numerology. Not that this absolutely does not include a question with an answer you are aware of. That is just reinforcement. Okay? All right? Okay, we're almost done. Resource-oriented building versus understanding-based building. To merely gain success, one need only study all things looking for the most advantageous resources available. Once identified, acquire them, utilize them, and discard them and hand them off. This is the pathway to success. This, the mere traits of amplified survival, resource-oriented building, are not the ideals that are shared here. Okay? Resource-oriented building, which really is rugged individualism on its most extreme and heinous, is not what I'm talking about. We must search for the deeper story in all things. We must look beyond survival's confines if we're to gain anything beyond it that can truly be titled a thriving, fulfilling, righteous life. We must make our building decisions based on principled understanding, not a clever networking of unalike conquering. To see the deeper understanding is to deal with mastery, 5%, over conquering, the 10% way, and let go of submission, the 85% way. Lastly, I added an exercise in here. Developing concepts. A concept is a generalized idea formed of particular instances. The uniting of ideas new with old that creates a building world in the mind, literally, is by the identification of concepts. The identifying of concepts must begin with the grouping of seen principles, ethics, and morals. Once those are made into concepts, one can begin to see the concepts that the works of history and daily life present to us. Make your principles into concepts that you can put into words. Then, when you're reading and you're reading things about history and life and all sciences, put those into concepts. Examples, some concepts in the 1 to 10. Leadership. Black man is God of the universe, thus leader of all. Balance, 10th degree, in the 1 to 10. The stated religion suggesting the mysterious path of the inner world, Buddhism, and the outer world, Christianity. That's my understanding. So just use an example. Illusions, 3rd and 4th degree in the 1 to 10. Population figures reveal that North American wilderness overpopulated by colored people. It's just the opposite. The entire world. Thank you, God. The entire world over. North American reality is an illusion of numbers. Okay? Contrast. The 1st, the 2nd, 3rd, the 4th, 9th, and 10th degrees. God and devil, original and colored populations, and Islam and other religions. The detail of the true is giving context, but contrasting it with the false and corrupt. Okay? Take any set of lessons of reading and make a list of their concepts and build on them in your journals. Bring your best ideas or the ones you desire to test to the classroom. Okay? Preliminary forums to build understanding. Peace course classroom. This classroom. In the greatest environment of learning, there is no allegiance to any said way. When this is present, we become mere vessels working to turn ourselves in the right direction or promote salvation. In other words, this is the place of experimentation. Journal, scholarly notation, see the said lesson. There's also a plus lesson for that. So that's the end of that. A very heavy one, possibly one of my most important ones I've ever written. And I want to share it on the Understanding Knowledge Day. Okay? The Understanding Knowledge Day is a great idea. The next class session is on the God Day, so that's gonna have to go crazy for that one, right? You know, but this is a heavy one. If anybody has any questions, I'm gonna read through these, and you let me know, okay? Ghost Dog, yeah, great movie you got. Wise, you said so is the Black family. I don't know. I'm a little lost because I'm a little behind here, or a little ahead, so I don't know what you're referring to, but it sounds right to me. King Kamoi said today's math is understanding knowledge. Understanding gives clarity. Knowledge is the root foundation. Today is about seeing things from the source. Don't guess. Go to the root and see for yourself. That's a great way of seeing the understanding of the mathematics and then turning it into an activity. I love it. I love it. Okay. I don't have, again, the 1 to 10 plus lesson. I haven't finished it yet, though. Okay. I haven't finished it. It's one of those things where I keep looking it over and I'm not satisfied. Okay. When I finish it, I'm not going to forget to get it to you. Okay. And I'll be reminding everyone. If there are any plus lessons like today's that people don't have, just email me, Sunez97. You know what I mean? You know what? My twin brother told me to watch Sing Sing. And I just totally forgot about it. Yeah, I got to watch it. Honestly, I'm going to keep it real. When I watch TV, when I watch television, it's usually when I'm eating. So I watch a lot of escapist stuff. I keep it very real. I read so much heavy stuff, study so much heavy stuff. When I watch TV, I'll watch a lot of escapist things. You know what I mean? Not too frivolous, but very escapist things, So, but I want to watch the Sing Sing. I do. I was told that it was good and everything, So thank you for reminding me, Oh, so wait, he did a diss track to who? Who did he do a diss track to, God? That's funny, man. He messing with the wrong one. He trying to. Excuse me. You know, if you want to make a diss track to me, to everybody, oh my goodness, oh boy, you know, that's crazy. That's crazy. You know what I mean? I find this very unhealthy, making diss tracks for stuff that you should have faced up and spoke one-on-one with us. You know. But yeah, guys, that's it for today. I have my album, my second album, second solo, fifth album, second solo album coming out tomorrow on Bandcamp. Okay, so it'll be on the streamings, but I put it out on Bandcamp first. It really means a lot if you support. You know what I mean? It's not that it doesn't cost that much, and trust me, there are real skill sets on this shit. You know what I mean? Like I really rhyme. You know what I mean? I'm getting an error on the chat, so if I can't do it, maybe. But it's Sunez.bandcamp. It's making me write things again here. All right. That's peace, King. I appreciate that. You know what I mean? King knows I put a lot of care into the rhymes. Like I really, really work hard on them. You know what I mean? And sometimes it affects my voice, even when I rhyme and stuff. But every single song is rhymed with care, with real precision. You know what I mean? Yeah, so tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, New York City time, tomorrow at 12 o'clock, I have a listening event on the Bandcamp, on my Bandcamp for the album. Yeah, so it's be a nice thing. Maybe if I have time, after I do the listening event on Bandcamp, I'll go on the IG and we could talk some hip hop and stuff. Maybe I could have a few words about corny diss tracks. You know what I mean? But put it in the comment section. I'm about to log off now, so put it in the comment section, so we could check it out. So we could check this clown out. You know what I mean? Big head scientist clown. You know what I mean? Because if he'd being a real punk trying to like copyright stuff that I said. You know what I mean? Like you're basically the sellout devil that Ray and Ghost are talking about in Shark Niggas. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to use people's word ahead of time before they have the chance to shine on their own. I've named books The Invisible Renaissance. I've named a whole era of The Invisible Renaissance. The lead track on my album tomorrow is called The Invisible Renaissance. I mean, you stealing my words, like my slang, my creations, and we're creators. And that's devilishment. There's no way around it, though. And people like that, they're not in my nation no more. You know what I mean? They're not in my nation. They do devilish, they're not in my nation. You know what I mean? They're not in this nation. They come to the school, though, and I'm here, they're not getting in. They're not getting in. I don't care how tough they are. They're not in this nation. I'm talking about Saladin, yeah. Because he did devilishment. And they want to do devilishment against me and stuff when I said things that a man says to another man when they're not right and exact. I said, you didn't do the knowledge to our elders and never asked this question about copyright to our elders, and they already had spoken to us about it and did not want to go the U.S. government and go to the devil to have him enforce what we should be enforcing ourselves. And I respect that understanding. You wasn't there. You never had to defend this flag. You never went anywhere to defend this flag. Talking about rappers that might have the flag. Yo, when rappers have the flag on, it's me, Darkim, it's Infmega, it's other MCs like us, the great MCs that are God, the SD Nax, the King Kamals, the Ras Frescos that go up to those people and say, why are you wearing that? It's us, that the MCs that want to build with knowledge and say, yo, is it okay if I say this in the song and this and that? Is it right and exact and shit? And say, yeah, because you're a good man and you're a righteous brother And yeah, that's peace, man. We're the ones that's doing that. So when we tell them, no, you're not the one that did that, you're not the one that does that, and you're not the one that ever do it, why are you being a baby? Because if you really had an issue like that and you come in here and make a video when the school's closed, you can have the balls to come up and say it to me right here. You can have the balls to say, listen, I didn't like what you said, what you did. Because there's other people that I don't really care for in this nation that I got more respect for because they said, I don't really like what you said to me. You know what I'm saying? And I said, whether I said, I don't give a shit about what you like and what you dislike, or I said, listen, my apologies because that's not the intent. Because sometimes it goes both ways. But I have more respect for that. Come straight up. That's what we do in this nation. We make songs, me and King Kamal, but we don't make songs about gods and earths, people with this flag, when we should be walking to them and telling them, yo, well, what did you do? Why are you doing that? And you're going to listen. We're going to talk about this because we don't do that in this. Now, we got a punk like Cage or something like that, right, King? Now, we'll make a song because he's cannon fodder. He's a joke. He's a joke. Make a song about somebody that tried to be in this nation and fell off, right? We'll make a song about him. He's a joke. We don't respect him anyway. But we respect this nation and come with this flag. I have a problem with somebody, we come meet me here. And in this nation, people know if I have a problem with you, I meet up. I come here and I meet up. If I'm real mad about it, you're going to see me not wearing polo. You're going to see me wearing dirty workout clothes coming here or something to put that work in. But I come face to face and deal with everybody. That's all I have to say about that. I put my heart into this music, into covering this music, into everything that I do. And to have someone that has this flag that we literally fought for outside. And to have somebody just try to make the attempt to steal your words like, oh, I'm showing you about stuff. Look at me, how I took your words in here and try to make it my own and make it valid for me. Nah, you're just out here trying to prove that their government is the proper enforcer. That's all you're trying to do. And while you're doing it, you're committing fraud while you try to prove that the devil's the true enforcer. That's pathetic. That's pathetic right there. You know what I mean? And see, Sunez not going to get in no trouble here because I built here for over 25 years. Now I'm going to punch somebody and get myself exiled or get myself in trouble here. You know what I mean? Giving somebody something that they deserve. You go make your baby songs. You go make your baby songs, make your video here when the school's closed. You go do all that shit. But Sunez can be found, right? Just a little guy, 5'4", 130, 135. That's my fight weight. But remember, it's a fight weight. I'm at fight weight all the time. It's just low. It's like flyweight, right? Flyweight, featherweight. But it's the fight weight. I always step to everybody respectfully. So we get ready for the disrespect or the respect. I don't see nobody in the flag have a problem with somebody else with a flag, and you start making a song, you start talking about it in social media, you start copywriting their shit. All of that is he cipher, monkey cipher activities. You go speak to him personally. And brothers that did that, they meant well. They felt it was a last resort, and I disagree with them to their face, though. I don't agree with making songs about another God if we could talk to him right then. I had issues with God. I didn't write no article in the Source magazine. I didn't write no article and say, Hip Hop Diaz, can you put this article? I didn't write no article and put it about no other God that I had a beef with and put it in the book. You know what I'm saying? Some fake ass shit. I'm trying not to, Jew. I'm trying to chop nobody. You know? All that is devilishment. Trademarking our flag, all of that. You disrespected the elders. You never spoke to them. You assumed that they were stupid. And that's what I scolded about. And that was in a closed meeting in a Zoom, not in front of everybody. Family. Family. I was in family room. I wasn't here. I didn't broadcast it. Super bitch maneuvers. Super. Just people accumulating their devilishment, God. You know what I mean? And then they use the fact that they did some works before to justify it. You know? Man. Drakeify, yo. Yo, it's just crazy, God. But, you know, these are all published in books, accepted by the entire community of musicians that are in hip hop today. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. But listen, God, look, I want to thank everybody for anybody that supports my music, anybody that supports, learns from me, anything that spends any time listening to me. All of it is an honor, okay? And I'm telling you that the technical skills, the content, the wordplay, the lyricism, the pockets. I did a lot of shit on this album. So, you know, we'll check it out tomorrow. We'll talk about it tomorrow. I'll be at the listening event at the Bandcamp, Sunez.bandcamp, and then I'm most likely after I get on the IG and we'll kick it a little bit on the IG, Sunez IG. All right. So with that said, I'm gonna let everybody go. You know what I'm saying? And if you got problems, you got problems. Everybody knows where to find me. I'm not a mystery god. I'm easy to find. You know what I'm saying? Easy to find. Easy to find. All right. With that said, peace.